Good evening, YouTuber subscribers and friends alike. It's Grant coming at you from Chandler, Arizona. It's a suburb of Phoenix. It's October 17th, 2019. It's a Thursday, about 5 o'clock. Recently this week, I've had subscribers of my channel and people from YouTube and stuff like that ask about what I've learned being homeless, and they were suggesting that I should make a video on it. So, the 8 months that I've been homeless, this is kind of the majority pack of what I've learned so far. And I'll try to put out all the knowledge I can. I'm kind of just going off my basic notes as you see there. And hopefully I can get all the highlights I want to out of it without this video taking too long. So, to start with, you have temperature. The main threat when you're homeless is temperature. If you are in negative degree weather, I would highly recommend coming to some place like Phoenix in the wintertime, just because you have this kind of temperature instead of snow and ice and negative temps. You can try and be out there in the forest and the woodlands, with a tent and out there in the winter with a wood stove and stuff like that. If you're a survivalist, more power to you if you want to go that route. But if you're camping, let's say, in a tent with a sleeping bag and all that, even though you're covered up and you're nice and warm, let's say if you're breathing in that cold minus temperatures, negative degree temperatures, you can actually get frostbite on your lungs. And so I would say the number one threat being homeless would be temperature. You always want to make sure that you're in warm enough, both during the day and especially at night, wherever you're sleeping, that you don't have that problem. Here in Phoenix, it's October 17th, like I was saying, so halfway through October, and still 90 degrees during the day and 60 degrees at night. This next following week is going to be 88 degrees-ish as the general high, and about 56 degrees at night. So Phoenix and Vegas and all that do kind of cool down as the winter goes on. Here in January and February around this area, it'll be close to like 70 as the high and 44 degrees or so as the low at night. But even 44 degrees, you just need a light, basic sleeping bag from Walmart to do that. The problem with following the temperature to better weather and etc., these two, is any smart homeless people would follow the temperature also. I ran into one guy that was in Chicago, lives there all his life, and I was asking him about it. He was like in Gary, Indiana, someplace, when I was on the city bus asking him about it. He said it's because he stays around Gary, Indiana and Chicago area because he doesn't, that's where he's always lived and that's all he knows better. Don't get caught in this sheltered frame of mind, especially if you just have a backpack and stuff and you're able to go anywhere, anytime. Get your ass down south for the winter is what I'm saying, or someplace in warmer temperatures. Don't freeze someplace and live your life miserably as a homeless guy in the streets in the middle of winter if you don't have to. Next up would be weather. I say weather in general in terms of rain, snow, hail, that kind of thing. The two main tips I can give you for that is carry a tarp with you. If you're in a more rainy, higher humidity kind of climate, carry a tarp with you. Some people carry tents. I would carry the tarp because it's more lightweight and easier to set up. You just put the tarp out, roll it out, grab one end of it and roll yourself up in it like a soft shell burrito, pretty much, overnight, and that would help to keep it dry if you had to. And mostly I'd say get a tarp for if you're out hitchhiking. There might be spots where you get dropped off in the middle of nowhere and a tarp is your only shelter, in which case you'll be glad that you had the tarp. So down here in Phoenix, I don't need it because obviously it hardly ever rains here and hardly ever windy or anything. That's the other reason why I picked Phoenix, or southern Arizona, as a general place to be for a while, because I don't have to deal with those top two things on my list. In terms of weather, obviously there's railroad crossing bridges. There's three different versions of interstate bridges, or any bridge that has a road going over it. There's the type of bridge that has a road going over it, and then it has another road intersection going underneath it. That type is okay, but people are going to see you sleeping up underneath the bridge if you go that route, and you use chance of 50-50 shot of people being all concerned about you being up underneath the bridge and calling the cops thinking they're helping you when they're really not. Cops will show up and say you can't be there no more. So I wouldn't pick that type of bridge. There's also the riverfront type of bridge where the roadway goes over a river, and that's okay, but then you're going to have to deal with bugs because anywhere there's water, standing water, there's bugs. And then there's the other type of bridge is a roadway bridge overcrossing a railroad bridge. And that I figure is the best, because even though the railroad crew does sometimes go through there once a night, maybe with the train, sometimes busier than that, and so depending where you're at. But a lot of times they don't care if you're just sleeping there next to the bridge. They haven't run me off yet, anyway, in terms of the railroad crew underneath the railroad bridge. So, but those bridges are places that you can go, so you just look it up on Google Maps and find yourself a railroad bridge. If you know it's going to rain, always keep an eye on the weather on the map, on your Google Maps. Google Maps is, nowadays, hitchhikers' best friend would be Google Maps, pretty much. Mainly what I do, though, is if you can hopefully maintain being around cities or towns or anywhere that has buildings, find an overhang that's bigger than that, really. But I mean, that would work for straight down rain if you had to. It would give you enough space to sit under, but if it was windy, obviously you wouldn't be able to sit there. But all sorts of buildings have overhangs like that. My favorite would be doctor's offices or dentist offices, especially if it's on a weekend, because those buildings tend to not be open until, the Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 type of thing. So if you can find a doctor's office or a dentist's office or something, that'd be the way to go. In terms of weather, if you have to survive in deep, cold, negative-degree temperatures, your choices are literally go to a homeless shelter or, have enough camping gear, basically, to survive it. Have a tent and the mat and the heavy-duty blankets and so on, and you could survive it. Live in a vehicle, obviously, and survive it. Or you could go to places like the stairwell in an apartment, the post office. In smaller town post offices, all post offices have 24-hour open lobby, but in the smaller town post offices, they tend to not have the staff working in the post office overnight. They just have a small regional postmaster that's there during the day. So therefore, you could go into a post office lobby at night and sleep there and nobody would know. In smaller towns, I wouldn't do it in a big city. And the most anybody's going to do in terms of trespassing is just call the cops, and the cops most they're going to do is tell you can't be there. When I first got out here being homeless on foot, I, just like anybody else in the world, is a little bit worried about, what's going to happen when I sleep here, what's going to happen when I sleep there, or whatever. And honestly, the most that's going to happen is you may end up, depending on where you sleep at night, you may end up having to deal with other human beings, meaning, if you can call them that, sometimes they're lowlifes, but even other homeless people who are walking around at 3:30, 4 in the morning, trying to find their own spot to camp at. So you gotta watch that where you sleep at, and you may end up running into cops. But in terms of trespassing, as long as you're the new face, you're there for the very first time and everything, you're technically trespassing, but they can't really get you a fine or jail time for it unless you return. You have to, for the trespassing statute to relate to you, they had to have warned you first, to not come back to the property and given you a chance to leave the property, and then if you returned, then that could be a charge and jail time. So anywhere you go, as long as you're the very first time police have interacted with you, you're fine in terms of trespassing. They just can't tell you to leave. But let's go back up to this one. This is my main problem because I have Native American blood in me, and it seems like mosquitoes and ants, but mostly mosquitoes, love my blood. Anybody who's got the generic donor for blood donation, the type O positive, I think it is. I don't remember for sure. I have to check on my card. I got a card in my pocket that says it. But the universal blood donor type blood, which is type O something, they tend to have, that tends to be the blood type that bugs really like, especially mosquitoes. So unfortunately, I have to sleep with covered head to toe with a hoodie, and then I put socks on my hands, and the hoodie, of course, covers everything but my mouth. That way I can sleep at night without the mosquitoes biting me. Other people can just sleep out here, especially in nice weather places like this, at 60 degrees at night. They can sleep out here in shorts or shirt and not get bit all night long because they have type A positive or type B positive or whatever that the bugs don't like to eat as much. I unfortunately don't have that luck. So when it comes to bugs, I'm going to go over another chart that I have on the back of this here in a minute, and specifically about bugs. But To handle bugs, you have about 3 different options. You can buy the Walmart thingy that is like a candle type of deal where you light the candle or whatever and it sprays stuff for a while, but then only works for a couple hours. Or you can buy, a can of off. But if you continually use the can of off, you can somewhat give yourself cancer. So just because of the fact that the cans of off have cancer-causing carcinogen in them, I tend to not use off, the spray can for off, even though I could, because you don't want to be using it on a daily basis. The can of off is more designed for like a backyard picnic type thing where you're just hanging out with your family for a couple hours, once a summer or whatever. That's more what your can of off is designed for, because at that slow of rate, you're not going to get cancer from it. But if you went and did it every single day, you risk giving yourself cancer over trying to fight the bugs. So to me, it's not worth it when you can just cover up with a basic $10 hoodie and jeans. And then I also take my socks out and put them over top of my pant leg at night so that you don't have creepy crawly critters like ants or spiders or mosquitoes flying up in there trying to get to you. Little things you'll learn as the longer you come out here and sleep out here. The one thing I would recommend from Walmart in terms of human beings, and I learned this very valuable lesson in Hawaii, is it's okay to have a backpack, yeah, but don't put your valuables in the backpack overnight. Have them on you in some way or another. And what I would recommend is the $20 fishing vest at Walmart. You can buy these fishing vests at Walmart for $20, and they got all sorts of little pockets along your chest. And you just wear that, and then wear a $10 hoodie that I have in here on top of the fishing vest, that people don't see that you have the vest on. And then you can sleep that way on the pavement here with your valuables secure on you, like your glasses and your phone charger and all that kind of stuff that drug addicts would want to steal from you, because they think they can sell it and then they can, feed their habit that way. Unfortunately, on rare occasion, maybe once or twice a month, you'll have to deal with somebody coming around on the streets trying to either bother you at night on the street or trying to steal your backpack. The main thing is they try to steal the backpack because they figure that, even if you sleep with your arm through the backpack like this, they figure they can fight that off of you and run away, and then whatever valuables you have in the backpack they can sell to feed their addiction. Unfortunately, there are low-life homeless people who will steal from other homeless people who will do that, and I learned that in Hawaii. And how I protect myself from it is I have a vest in here, put all my valuables on the vest, wear the vest at night, put the hoodie over top of the vest at night so that they can't see that I have it on, and then I literally wear everything. Well, there's a pair of sandals and a little bit extra clothes that I keep in the bag that I would, it would suck to lose it, but I wouldn't mind it, if somebody did take it at night. And that's the whole point, is you don't want to leave no valuables in your backpack, because if you want to call them human beings, there are some people that will steal from other homeless people. But it's rare. I mean, depends on where you're at. If you're moving around a lot, you may have to encounter that once or twice a month, depending on if you stay someplace where other homeless people are not at. You may not ever have to encounter it. It just depends. But if you're drifting and moving around a lot, you probably once or twice a month have to deal with some kind of wacky homeless person or another. When it comes to homeless people and human beings, as like I say, being the fourth threat down here on the list, in general, I don't mind talking to other homeless people during the daytime, hanging out with them at Walmart or wherever, and you can learn some basic things, where the best place to go for this or that is around town, if they're local bums. You can learn some stuff from them, but don't ever go back to their camp. Don't invite them to your camp. Just disappear on purpose. Tell them you're a lone wolf type of person. You don't like, staying with other people at night and yada yada, because human beings are habit-forming creatures. So we like doing the same thing every day. We're comfortable with doing the same thing. We're not so comfortable with change. And so some people who are sociable like to stay around other people who are sociable. But however, your kleptomaniacs and stuff like that will try and buddy up with you and go camping with you and try to get you drunk and steal your stuff or whatever. So to me, it's just not worth the risk. In general, the top tip I can say for being homeless, especially if you're hitchhiking anyway, is just to stay by the freeway. And up there, just past the bushes, past Costco, is the freeway. I stay on the edges of the city. I don't go downtown anywhere near where other homeless resources are. You know, if you look on Google Maps and you find where the homeless resources are for like the soup kitchen and the homeless shelter and all that stuff, if you look on Google Maps where they're at, you try to plan where you're going to be at, which is a shopping center or somewhere near day labor jobs and stuff like that, which are way out there on the edge of the city, away from that, because the problem is other homeless people have already ruined it downtown. So even if you're not having to deal with other homeless people at night, you'll end up dealing with cops who are basically watching the homeless people because of their whacked out habits. So just in general, I try to stay away from downtown areas because then you never have to deal with the cops because they watch the first half. So anyway, that's a kind of a fast run through of what I will, kind of things to look out for if you're going to plan on going hitchhiking. The number one thing I would say is temperature was your main threat. Then weather, because you have to deal with rain and snow here or there. So always check your weather map. Bugs, another thing, if you happen to have the right blood type, that bugs just love to have you. Human beings in general are homeless people and cops. The other thing I would recommend having on you is I have a second phone. This phone that I'm using right now is my smartphone, and I use it during the day, obviously, for getting online and watching YouTube and all that other fun stuff. But I also have what I call a dumb phone. It's literally just talk and text. There's no other reason to use it other than talk and text, and so it's almost always powered. And I have it shut off usually, but right now it's on. But I have phone service on that phone too, and then the general idea is always have a powered phone that at least has a flashlight and talk and text on it. Because if nothing else, you can call the cops if you had to have the system involved. Somebody stole your stuff or whatever. Not that I would recommend it, but it gives you a ability to still communicate with people. Because if you're using your smartphone all day long, a lot of times your smartphone's going to be dead because in this homeless lifestyle, unless you have your own solar-powered charger that you pack with you, you're constantly trying to find outlets like right up there by that door to charge your phone, and then you got to stay someplace, a couple hours. This smartphone that I have right now, it's kind of a cheap smartphone, charges in about 3 hours time frame. So you'd have to loiter and stick around someplace for 3 hours at a shot, to charge my phone. So a lot of times the smartphone ends up being dead by dark, and that's why I always keep that one. I usually always keep that one off, just so it's powered, and I know I have a phone that you can get in touch with 911 if you had to or whatever, and then plus it allows you to have a flashlight at night if you really needed to. And that is one good thing to have, especially if you're out continuously hitchhiking, so that you always have a powered phone. So if you get out in the middle of nowhere, if nothing else, if you find yourself in a drastic situation up further north of like Flagstaff or somewhere where all of a sudden the weather turned negative degrees or something and you weren't planning on it because you didn't look ahead, then at least you can call 911 to help save yourself. That would be one of the main things I would say. That and the $20 vest from Walmart to put all your valuable stuff in to wear, and it's just a fishing vest from Walmart for $20. Would solve majority of your problems. Just put all your toiletries and your smartphone and your charger and all the stuff that you consider to be valuable, your glasses, whatever, in that vest. During the daytime, I have it in this backpack because I'm someplace where it's warm enough where I wouldn't want to be wearing it during the daytime. But I suit up in that vest at night, and then the $10 hoodie on top of it so they can't see it. And that's how I roll at night. The other thing I would recommend if you want to carry it around would be a knife. But what I do at night is I put out this really ugly sock onto my hand at night as an extra pair of socks. It's an old hiker's trick to have extra pairs of socks on you because you always want to keep your feet dry and rotate your socks out so that your feet stay dry so you don't get foot rot. And then this way, if you use them as gloves, they're multi-purpose pretty much, because now you can use the extra pair of socks as gloves. And what I do is I take my heavy-duty scissors, push shears, whatever these things are. I found this on the side of the road somewhere, but I've never seen where you can actually buy it at. But they look to be pretty damn heavy-duty. And anyway, I put them up in the sock with me, with my hand at night, like this. And the general idea behind that is I can toss and turn at night, and this stays with me, and I don't have to continually grab it at night. You don't want to get in the habit of trying to grab something continuously at night. It'll keep you up. So there's nowhere this can go in the sock with me. So it just stays right there at my fingertips. and then it's less lethal. I mean, it's got a sharp enough point on it that it can cause somebody to think twice in terms of coming up against you and doing something at night. I've only had to use it one time, but in my opinion, this is better than a knife because it's less lethal. I don't want to end up accidentally spending the rest of my life in prison because I stabbed some homeless guy, you know, and he essentially ruined my life. So I go with less lethal enough option that'll make them think twice to ever bother you again. You just poke them here or there, and if you had to, you could poke them in the eye if you want, if you really want to get that devastatingly bad about it. But I had a woman, pretty much like a crack hole. She had a bunch of holes in her face and whatever, come up to me one night and try to steal my backpack. Had her hand on my backpack, and I stabbed her in the hand right there. Bad enough that, punctured her and it had blood on it and stuff like that. She called the cops about it, of course. I tried to leave the area because immediately after you have an interaction with the homeless person, the best idea is to just up and leave. Get away from the system before it comes around. But I got about 4 blocks away. The cops gathered me back up, asked me what all happened, and I said I didn't have the right to defend myself in my backpack. She was trying to steal it. I taught her why that's a bad thing to do. So, I don't want to say that to scare you, but you have to face the fact that probably once or twice a month you have to deal with weird people. And it also depends on where you sleep at night. I could go into that a little bit. I prefer the back of shopping centers, not actually out there in the parking lot, because you don't want to get anywhere where you could get run over. That's the main thing. You don't want to sleep anywhere where somebody could accidentally drive over you. Don't sleep over there by the dumpsters and stuff like that, because the dump trucks do come at night, the garbage trucks do come at night to empty those. And then there's street cleaners and stuff that come through here and clean the parking lot at night, so you wouldn't want to be out there in the parking lot itself. But over here wouldn't be a bad idea. I've never done it yet, because it's too close to the highway, to the roadway. But you want to try to stay out of the vision of the roadway, and then you can see that this is a sidewalk, and this sidewalk coming up here, so that's mainly why I probably would not stay here. However, on the other side of this building, it's just rocks, and then the building, and then a sidewalk way over, 10, 20 feet out. That way, like say the sidewalk's out to there, on the other side of this building in the back, and that's where I would stay, because then you have this much distance between you and somebody who would be walking by or somebody who would be driving by. That's the general idea. You want to, because there's no other reason that somebody would be coming through here. Now, on this particular deal, there's a sidewalk here, so people couldn't come through here for some reason or another. Employees leaving, going back and forth or whatever. So I wouldn't want to stay here because of the sidewalk. But in general, you try to stay places that are away from the sidewalk. You try to stay in the bushes, kind of. In general, you make it a way so that no one would be coming through here on purpose. If this wasn't a sidewalk and it was just rocks that come up to the building, it wouldn't be too bad of a spot, because somebody would have to literally be coming through here for a reason. And the only people who would do that would be homeless people walking by. And the other good thing about the gravel is you can hear the footsteps on the gravel coming at you if you're sensitive enough to it. That's one of those things. I prefer like doctor's offices and dentist offices and stuff like that after hours, after they're closed, because nobody's going to be camping there. Your other typical homeless people go out in the bushes a lot of times, so they don't get bothered. But I'm not too scared about getting bothered at like dentist office or doctor's office, stuff like that. You may have to wake up early to get out of there before the office opens or something if it's not the weekend. But that's be my preference. If nothing else, you take the back of shopping centers, and the reason why I do this is, again, the bugs. And so let's go over that chart that I have on this side about the bugs versus the humans. While you're out hitchhiking, you might encounter places like national parks and the forest and the BLM land, stuff like that, and that's all fine and dandy and fun to go out and hitchhiking and live in. Just make sure you come prepared and have food and water on you to do it. However, the further you get away from civilization, the more you have to deal with bugs. The same goes for hitchhiking. As you go along hitchhiking, just plan on having areas where it's just, maybe a small town with a gas station and a couple houses, and that's it. And you get dropped off there in the middle of nowhere. So you're underneath a bridge and you might have to deal with bugs. Again, but it's just a hazard of hitchhiking. You never know exactly for sure where you're going to end up at. That's why when somebody pulls over to give me a ride, I always try to ask them how far they're going. And if the town sounds big enough where they're going, then hopefully I can get all the way there instead of just about there, all the way there, because I've already made that mistake before where they say I'm going to this town, and then they're actually 20 miles from this town. They just generally said, well, I'm going to this town. And unfortunately you take that risk. You roll the dice, but the further you get out of towns hitchhiking, the easier it is to get rides anyway, so I'm not too worried about getting the rides. It's just having to spend a night outside of where human beings normally habitate at, and so then you have bugs. Small towns, the scale starts to go toward more humans, less bugs, because anywhere, including a shopping center where people, especially where people go shopping, this shopping center, for instance, where we're at, in the back of Target right there, they spray for mosquitoes and stuff like that because they don't want to drive their customers away, because their customers get bit from their car into the shopping center and back. People don't like to deal with bugs, so anywhere where groups of people congregate at, especially shopping centers, they tend to spray for bugs, at least in the front part of the shopping center. Back here, I've noticed that on this other side of the shopping center where I've stayed at, I've noticed that the bugs around dusk and dawn for that hour